first time I left Argentina, it was to go and live in Vienna, Austria. Well, I remember calling my mother and telling her that the Austrians did not clean their casseroles and their pans properly, because I had been looking desperately for a cleaning powder we used to call pool oil back in Buenos Aires. I couldn't find it anywhere. There was no globalization and no digitalization back in the 80s. So it took me about 1 year to learn a little bit of German in order to understand the packaging. And I have to confess that the Austrians did clean their casseroles and their pans with a cleaning powder, but it was called Ata, Ajax, or Irex. Nothing that I knew in Buenos Aires I could recognize in Vienna. I missed my country so much. I missed the sun. I missed the warmth. I missed the jacaranda trees in Plaza San Martín. I missed my family, my friends. I missed my life. I rejected everything that Vienna had to give. I rejected the gray skies, the cold, the big, long words in German, the fact that silence could be a value, or that I had to send an invitation 15 days in advance to invite people home for dinner. So I kept going back to Buenos Aires. And in the first 24 months, I went about 4 times. And one day, I was strolling down the streets of Buenos Aires under the jacaranda tree. And suddenly I thought, I want to go home. My God, what happened? What had changed? Home was Vienna. And I had changed. I was a different Claudia. I was a new Claudia with different interests, with different likes, with different aspirations. And actually, I liked this new Claudia. I had gone from total rejection of Vienna to acceptance and love. I had accepted the differences, and more than that, I had embraced them. And I had become a more grounded and a more resourceful human being. That was my first, not the last, biggest transformational process I had ever gone through. And it was self-transformational. So this is what I want to share with you, because as you heard, I have like 37 years of experience and many self-transformational processes. So I want to give you some of my own secrets to go through these self-transformations. My first secret: take risks. I started about 37 years ago in Buenos Aires, thinking I wanted to be a criminal lawyer. Since then, I lived in 4 different countries. I studied another career. I changed professions. I worked all over Europe and the Americas. I even changed husbands. And I started back in Vienna and in development. And then I moved to Germany. I worked for an international consulting company. And from there, I traveled throughout Europe and the Americas. I learned about automotive, cement, and chemical industries, and all that stuff. Then, living still in Frankfurt, I had the honor, the privilege, to work for the European Central Bank, and I was part of that team of 1,000 people who put the euro out in the streets. I still remember the night in January when I went with a card in the ATM machine to see if the euro was coming out. I can still feel it. And then I went to my next love, and my next love was in Washington, D.C., and it was the Inter-American Development Bank. And there I did the transformation of my own department, and I also had the privilege to be in the small team that put together the merge out, as we call it, and created the private sector arm of the IDB that we call BID Invest. So what can I tell you about these transformations? What can I share with you about this? The first thing is that moving homes, countries, continents, professions, careers, industries, husbands, it's never an easy decision. I was never fearless about these things. However, I decided I wanted to live my life based on the opportunities that were provided to me, and not on my fears. And what is more important, I gave myself permission to fail. And never I asked myself, what if? You all live in a bubble. We all love the bubble. We are cozy. You heard a lot already from other speakers about our bubbles. But when you take risks, you stretch yourself. You stretch your limits. Every one of us has visions about what we are good at, what we are capable of. Those images are limiting ourselves. When you take risks, you conquer new horizons. You discover you have strengths, competencies, abilities that you never thought you would have. You also think that perhaps after 50 or 55, you don't take risks anymore, you're half dead. No, that's not true. I had one of those moments, aha moments, when I was living in my bubble in Frankfurt, happy with working at the ECB, and then I got 2 different job offers at the same time. Excellent, wonderful offers, one in Rome, one in Washington, D.C. I remember writing pages and pages of objective criteria to try and see which one I would pick. And we couldn't decide. So I decided to go with the flow. I took the interviews. And I was in D.C. after a long day of many interviews. And I said, okay, I'm going to visit my future boss, perhaps, who was the vice president, and I think I was already sucking up. And then I said, hello, I'm there, I wanted to say goodbye, I'm going to fly back to Frankfurt. And he said, come in, Claudia, please, take a seat. Would you like to have a mate? Mate? Oh my God, 27 years living in Europe, and I hadn't had one mate, okay? At that very moment, I knew exactly where I wanted to work. I knew where I belonged. I wanted to work for my region. I wanted to give back to Latin America. I had an alignment with my sense of purpose, with whom I was. And this is my second secret. Find your purpose. I always wanted to work for a place that would be greater than myself, somewhere I could impact lives. I never wanted to work for other people to make more money in order to buy bigger cars or bigger boats or put another product of mass production in the market. Not that that's bad. It's neither good nor bad. It's just that that is not me. And this is something that can happen to you at times, where you are with a person or in a job or in an organization and you feel that something is not right, that you don't share the same values. Well, unless you are in a perfect position to change that, drop it. That's not for you. You feel alive and in motion when you are in sync, when your job, your life, and yourself and your values are resonant. The third secret: embrace change and ride the wave. You're all very young, starting your careers, or with a very few years behind. And you have heard about the future of jobs and how complicated it is and all this revolution that change brings upon us. You might already know that whatever you have learned in 5 years' time might be completely irrelevant. As a tip, the predictions say that in the United States, 47% of the jobs that exist today will disappear by 2030. And that 60% of the jobs that remain will be completely automatized. And we do not know what new jobs will appear. So you might want to know, what is it that I need to do to succeed or to survive? Well, I can tell you what we look for. And as head of the Human Resources function in the Inter-American Development Bank, we talk to a lot of organizations, and we ourselves recruit hundreds of people every year. What we are looking for is for flexible professionals. We are looking for flexibility. That is, the ability to learn and adapt. We are looking for people with very good analytics, people who are humble enough to know what they do not know, but also resourceful enough to know where to look for those solutions. We are looking for people who work and thrive in teams, people who can take decisions in situations of high volatility, high complexity, high ambiguity. It is as important to have emotional intelligence as good analytics. I do not have the 6 silver bullets that will tell you what you need to do in order to succeed in your profession or in managing change. And that is total bullshit, excuse my French. Because you might change as well, that change is an event. You might think that change is an event. And because it's an event, you think it's here, it happened, it's a reality. Well, reality might be like a set of pictures. No, it's more like a video. It's emotion. It's there, it rolls, it moves. It's more like a wave. And if you see a wave and you imagine all this thing that rolls, it's full with fears, with insecurities, with discomfort, and it's always disruptive, but it's as well transformational. So if it is a wave, why don't we ride it as a wave? And do you know what the surfers tell each other as the biggest and best piece of advice? It is, feel the fear and do it anyway. And that is exactly it. You do it and practice and do it and do it and do it until you stand up. And once you're riding the wave, it is transformational. You see the world from another perspective. People know that I'm Argentinian by now, and I'm porteña. I'm born in Buenos Aires. And the porteños are very neurotic people, like the New Yorkers. So we go to therapists. And the therapists are so many in Buenos Aires that we even have a neighborhood that we call Villa Freud. So I had my therapist, I confess, and my therapist told me when I was about 25 years old, Claudia, you see, it hurts to grow up. Oh, yes, it does. But it is so wonderful to become an adult and to continue learning. I would not like to be 25 years anymore. I don't use Botox. When I was 25, I was extremely insecure. I would keep looking at myself all the time in the mirror and think, am I okay? Am I pretty? Is he going to invite me to dance? Am I okay? Am I enough? Today, I don't care anymore. That's why I don't use Botox. I love every wrinkle I have because I know where it comes from. I know the story that it tells, and it is who I am. There is an excellent coach called Kimsey House who said, people are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. I'm a deep believer in this. Everybody is full of illusions, strengths, passions, pains. People are not made of one single piece. Everybody is a complex puzzle. And the only one who can put this puzzle together is ourselves. I know for a fact that each one of you, of us, can ignite change and transformation. And that if, only if, you take risks, you find your purpose, and you embrace change, you will successfully ride the wave, but the wave of life. Thank you.